Good afternoon, everyone. We will give it a few seconds just as our attendees and participants join the call. A very good afternoon to everyone that is joining us today. My name is Rania Saadawi, and I am the Executive Director at the Pearl Initiative. It is really my pleasure and honor to welcome you to our first webinar in a series as part of our Governance and Family Firms program in collaboration with EY. In today's session, we will be discussing the role and value of the family office and how it can be leveraged for better governance and sustainability for a family firm. Before we begin, I'd like to start by first introducing the Pearl Initiative. The Pearl Initiative is the Gulf region's leading independent nonprofit organization working to improve corporate accountability and transparency across the private sector, family firms, small businesses, and philanthropic organizations in the Gulf region. The Pearl Initiative was established 10 years ago by regional business leaders and the United Nations Office for Partnerships. More recently, we are one of the few private nonprofit organizations in the Gulf region to have special consultative status from the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Here at the Pearl Initiative, we run programs across the Gulf region focusing on governance-related matters. We conduct regionally based research, convene business leaders, government and civil society leaders, and youth communities to discuss challenges and opportunities in implementing best practices in the workplace. We also run workshops and trainings to support business professionals as they take the lead in implementing corporate governance, accountability, and transparency practices in their organizations. To kick off today's session, it's interesting to note that research has shown that the majority of family businesses in the Gulf region, 68%, do not have a formal family council. Only 17% have a family protocol or constitution in place. The formalization of these governance structures is necessary, as indicated by a lot of research, for the harmony of the relationship between the family and the firm, and the longevity of the business. Institutionalizing family office is an increasingly prominent trend in the region. By expanding the remit of the family office beyond just the growth of the business's financial portfolio, family offices are now positioning themselves to centrally manage the family's strategic activities, such as administering governance frameworks and improving generational transitions. Today's virtual panel, our objectives are to cover the role of the family office in improving governance, approaches to institutionalizing the family offices, and how to maximize the value beyond its financial remit. And today we are honored to be joined by those who have been leading this across key family firms in the region. It is with great pleasure that I would like to introduce our expert moderator for today's session, Mr. Ismael Hajjar, who is the EY private leader for the MENA region and an advisor to ambitious owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs of leading private, fast growth, and family enterprises. Mr. Ismael has also founded and currently leads the EY MENA Family Enterprise and Family Office award-winning consulting practice, which specializes in assisting successful families, entrepreneurs, and family offices across the MENA region, managing risks, preserving, and growing wealth. We are honored to have with us, joining on the panel discussion, Mr. Saeed Al-Hamdan, the CEO of Nahdi office. Mr. Saeed is also an active member on many boards and governance committees. With over 25 years of experience in finance and strategy management, his background includes working in many leadership roles in reputable multinational and government authorities, including Procter & Gamble, Saudi Arabia General Investment Authorities, Crystal Global, and Nahdi Medical Company. Mr. Saeed is an honor graduate of King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals and received his MBA from the King Abdulaziz University, along with a number of leadership programs in Oxford University. And finally, but certainly not least, I am delighted to introduce Mr. Omar Al-Hamdan, the Managing Director of Al-Hamdan Group. Omar is a results-driven, flexible, and solutions-oriented professional and executive. Throughout his career, he has learned from his family the value of hard work, keeping the family spirit and principles in line with business success. As a business leader, Omar is always looking at ways to improve the communities he serves through corporate social responsibility plans and sustainability practices throughout the organizational process. Thank you, all three of you, for taking the time to join us today and share your experience with our attendees. Our session will begin with a short presentation from Ismael before moving into the panel discussion. For many of you who have joined our webinars, you know we try to make them as interactive as possible. So we encourage you, the audience, to participate by sending questions as you have for the panelists throughout the session using the Q&A function. Also, throughout today's panel discussion, we will be posing panel poll questions for our audience, and we encourage you to answer them as they come out throughout. Finally, there will be a Q&A session towards the end of today's session to address the questions that you bring up. And with that, I hand it over to Ismael to kick off our conversation.
Well, thank you, Rania. Good afternoon, everyone. And we're very excited indeed to kick off this collaboration with the Pearl Initiative. And we're particularly excited about today's topic, that is the family office in the Middle East. We have a great agenda, and we have two fantastic regional panelists who will share their views about the family office. But before we start the conversation with them, we thought you may benefit from a refresher about the concept of family office. During this refresher, I will aim at answering the following questions. What is a family office? Why to set up a single family office? What are the services provided by a typical Middle Eastern family office? How does a typical family office look like? And where are family offices set up? So let's start. On page 1, that is displayed currently on the screen, single family office structures are increasingly gaining in popularity amongst entrepreneurial families in the Middle East. A single family office can be compared to a commercial enterprise, but a very special one, as its only clients and members are members of one single family, and its activities are determined by a menu of services that is bespoke to each single family office. A single family office may remain virtual, so that is not incorporated as part of a legal entity. Alternatively, it may be embedded in a family business as a department, for instance, or incorporated as a distinct legal entity separated from the business. And that's why you see the embedded family office, EFO, and the single family office, SFO. The assets under management are the family's own wealth, often accumulated over several generations. A single family office may or may not own assets, but in general, it does not own assets directly and rather act as a management or advisory company. A single family office is restricted to provide services to members of one single family, as opposed to a multifamily office that can provide services to multiple families, and that generally falls within the scope of financial regulations. And that's the third type of family office that you can see, multifamily office. Moving on to page 2. So now we've answered the question, what is a family office? We need to answer the question, what is the purpose of a family office? And I will share here my personal views based on interactions with a number of families over the years. I believe that the purpose of a family office is to simplify one's life, giving back time and providing support to pursue passions while ensuring that the activities delegated by the family to the family office are handled with the highest level of care and professionalism. So simplify one's life, giving back time. We're touching very important concept in this sentence, as giving back time is probably the greatest gift you could ever make to any human being. Let me share a story to further elaborate about a typical family office journey. It begins by looking at every aspect of one's life or of a family life, and then start thinking, what do you wish to continue being involved with versus what do you wish to delegate? In other words, what do you really, really, really enjoy doing versus what you are forced to do because of the circumstances. Once the separation is done, then looking at the activities to be delegated with the aim of professionalizing all of them. By doing so, the principal and his family have more time to pursue passions, spend quality time with each other, be able to focus efforts, for instance, on a particular project. And frankly, the ultimate benefit of having a family office is to wake up in the morning and be able to choose what you will do every day while not having to worry about what you choose not to do because it is handled professionally by the family office. So let's move to page 3, how to get there. Well, it's essential for each and every single family office to design a menu of services that is fully aligned with the family's circumstances, wishes, and expectations. On this slide, you can see an example of a menu of services or service map that was used by a regional family office. The services are different, of course, from office to office and can cover investment management and reporting, succession planning, helping the family practicing their shareholders' duties, family governance support, entrepreneurship support, professionalizing the family's philanthropic activities, next generation education, family care, tax and legal matters. We would typically establish a map reflecting the current status of the family activities, and then a dream map, following which we would support the family to move from the current map to the dream map. And frankly, what will help the family the most in transitioning from current to dream is the family office. Not every service has to be conducted in-house, and outsourcing by the family office to service providers is very common. You don't need to do it all in-house. As you can see on this slide, the green services are conducted in-house by the family office staff, while the orange ones are handled by the family alone, and the red ones are outsourced to third-party providers. We always tell the families that we work with that you have to find the right balance between doing it in-house and outsourcing. Let's move to page 4, please. So what does a typical family office look like? You can see on this page examples of the internal structures of family offices. It may be as small as a founder office with an accountant, a personal assistant, to evolve into a multi-generational family office with several C-level executives covering investment, operations and finance, a state-of-the-art investment committee, and a philanthropic board. Frankly, we've seen it all in the region. In general, new family offices that are being set up in the region would be comparable to the medium-sized family office depicted on this page, with a plan to get to the multi-generational family office within 5 years. And that's a good lesson. You don't need to start with everything. You can do it at your own pace, step by step. And it's not necessarily bad to start with a founder office or to start with an embedded office, for instance, with the view of decoupling it from the business at a later stage. So start, with your own means, at your own pace, and set an objective and get there over time. Page 5, please. Why are families setting up family offices? Well, there are many reasons why one would consider setting up a single family office. But the two main reasons are to professionalize how the family's overall wealth is managed and protected. So it's really, as I said before, sleeping well at night, not doing everything, delegating, but delegating without having to worry about it. And 2, ensuring a smooth intergenerational transfer of wealth and reducing intra-family disputes, especially as complexity increases from one generation to the next. Key triggers include diversification of assets, institutionalizing family values, preserving family legacy, a liquidity event like a family business going IPO, or department win the business, being sold, succession planning, family matters adversely affecting the business. So because of their nature and their sensitivity, and with some families we work with, for instance, they decided not, the family members will not interact with the business. We will create a bridge, and that bridge is the family office. That's a key function within the office. And last but not least, as we said before, a trigger could be the desire to simplify the life of the family. So to remove the task that the family, didn't like, but still they were doing them, by assigning them to an office that will handle these tasks with a very high level of professionalism and care, and no conflict of interest, of course. Page number 6, where are family offices set up? Well, the theoretical answer is in a jurisdiction that combines all the features that you can see on this page. So safe environment from a geopolitical standpoint, legal stability, tax regime, discretion, availability of good professionals, right? High level professionals, presence of banks, advisors, and lawyers. So, having a good ecosystem in the jurisdiction, and of course, the geographical connectivity. At the center, of course, there's the family, right? And that's the challenge. If you create your family office on the other side of the planet, how is this family office going to, serve you well, right? Or serve you for stuff, right? It creates a challenge. And as you've seen, when I was talking about the services that are provided by family offices, some of them are really personal in nature and require the geographical proximity with the family members. So it's not easy, honestly, to find one jurisdiction. And that's probably why families are now looking at 2 jurisdictions. That's the trend. So one that is usually the home country to centralize the activities which require physical presence, and the other that is located in a financial center that the family trusts to manage the international activities. The usual jurisdiction that we see in the context of Middle Eastern family offices, so when it comes to centralizing the international activities, are typically Switzerland, the UK, UAE, and we start seeing more and more of Singapore. So I hope that this refresher was helpful and that you're now ready to move to the panel discussion. Thank you, Sumaya. And we have divided this discussion in 3 chapters. The first chapter will be about the personal family office journey of our speakers. The second chapter will be about institutionalizing the family office. And the third chapter will be about maximizing the value of the family office. In between each chapter, we will have a polling question. And we really looking forward actually to the polling question to see what type of thoughts you have and what type of views you have on the family office. It will be your turn to answer the question. So it's not only Saeed and Omar who will answer questions today. So let's start with the personal family office journey. And I will start with Mr. Saeed Al-Hamdan, who is the CEO of a single family office that was recently established to support the members of the Nahdi family. Saeed, can you share your story of setting up a new family office?
Sure. Thank you, Ismael, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Peer Initiative, Rania, and everyone for this great event. I would like to welcome the audience first, and I'm very glad to see increasing interest in this important topic. Our story is, maybe I'll start by giving like a 2 minutes brief about the Nahdi family. So Nahdi family is a long history into the business as a family business. So basically, the story started with Mr. Abdullah Nahdi establishing 2 pharmacies in Jeddah back in 1986. But back then, it was relatively small step, but it had all the ambitious dream around it of achieving a brighter future. So the business kept growing, and that's maybe what we are most known about currently. When a Nahdi name comes up, everybody relates to the pharmacies. So Nahdi Pharmacies today is almost 1,200 pharmacies. It's the biggest pharmacy retailer chain in the Middle East. But since the inception, there was a clear interest from the founder in institutionalizing this family business. So he was keen about governance, seeking to achieve the best governance practice. At a certain stage, he also, after achieving certain level of growth, was keen to move into another sector and another investment. So aside from the pharmacies, we are a major investor into other sectors like the transportation, services, education. We are also a major investor into public equities locally and internationally. So this is in brief about Nahdi family. So back to our story, Ismael. It's interestingly when the business keep growing and the diversification keeps coming on, I think many questions come along the way. So among these questions is how relevant is these businesses to the family, and what value the family itself can present to the business, and what value the business itself represents to the family. Is every single direction we are taking the right attention and the right focus? Some question pops up on the sustainability, on the legal protection, the right setup for the future of these businesses. So all of these kind of set up the stage for us in order to ask what is the right answer and what is it that would help us to answer this question. So the idea of incepting the family office came up in 2018, and then the work started effectively almost in 2019. So that's the real kickstart of the story, but the need and force came much earlier than that stage. So our story, when we decided to start, we have put a simple principle for us. We said, let's start where other people ended. Let's start with exploring the best global practices. Let's not reinvent the wheel. And honestly, as you know, Ismael, I think the world these days is becoming much more generous with in terms of knowledge versus what it used to be. You can have all accesses to the knowledge base, to the think tank of the world, to the best practices. I think we are so fortunate in living in this era. So after this exploration, we have started our journey, and we were, I think, lucky to partner with some of the best providers into this area. We had a partnership with EY, and we had a partnership with the best law firms. We had a partnership with some of the best system firms, but we tried to unify that in putting our effort on defining what is it that we need, what is it that we want to achieve. That was not an easy question to answer, by the way. It took a few months to define what is the mandate of the office, what are the areas that we want to play with in order to start the execution. So it was a journey, but it was a beautiful journey because it had a very clear mandate, and we knew what is it that we want to achieve, and we tried to achieve it with the best.
Thank you, Saeed, for this very comprehensive answer. And indeed, like your journey, your answer started, from very clear, starting point to a very logical end. What were the main challenges that you had to overcome during your journey?
Actually, as I probably have mentioned, defining the where to play was a challenge in itself, because a family office scope can go on a very wide range of dimensions, or can be more focused in some other occasion. So that was I think a tough question to answer. It was a challenge in itself. We have tried to, if you explore the area of family offices service, I think the drop-down menu is so long. You probably have shared in one of your slides, Ismael, how diversified the playground that you can cover within the family office. But in our specific case, we have tried, we kept it simple in order to remind ourselves by labeling it with the 3 Gs. So we have decided to focus on growth. So our main mandate is to focus on the investment, on the suitable investment opportunity, achieving the right balanced growth. The second G is governance. So we're really looking toward the right governance framework in terms of the legal entities that we need, the protective bodies, the family council, the other oversighting committees, the workflow and policies and procedures for everything that we do at the family office. And the third G, of course, is a very important pillar for us, which stands for generations. We have realized that sustainability of the business and continuity comes from our interlink with generation development, our interlink with the family long-term plans. We are even involved in the family philanthropic plans, and we put ourselves in a strong association with everything that the family had in mind. So that was a key challenge, actually. If I would recall other challenges, I think, Ismael, it wasn't easy to find the right talent when it comes to a specific area such as the family office. You know that relatively this industry is new in the new standard of high professional level that we're having in the region. So it wasn't easy to find and attract the right talent, especially if your mandate is diversified, especially if you are tapping into areas like the investment, where your competition on those talent are the biggest investment firms. So that was, I think, was another challenge that we had. I don't want to elaborate on the challenges because it was part of the things that we have really enjoyed doing, but I would recall one more last point. I think we had everything clear in mind. We had some turbulence moving things from the concept in our minds into reality. So actualizing things and realizing it on the ground was a little bit of effort, and it took a lot of courage in order to for example, to move the family constitution from a concept to a signed family constitution and reality on the family concept. So actualizing things wasn't also easy, but it was overall a very lovely journey, I would say.
Well, I was indeed, living certain moment of your journey as you were telling them. So where, 2 questions. So you said your family office focuses on indeed growth of the portfolio of assets of the family. You said it focuses on managing governance, right? Including specifically family governance. And you said the third aspect is about education and preparing the next generation. So in terms of staff, how many people do you have, if you can share, of course, in terms of confidentiality, but if you can share, if you're comfortable sharing, how many people do you have today supporting you in, making this family office work? And my second question that connects, to where you are today is the Al-Nahdi family happy, and do they perceive the value of the family office?
Today, our structure is relatively lean. So we are all in all a group of 12 individuals serving in the family office. We are fully operational. So we have our our system in place, we have our clear vision, we have our long-term plan, we have our institutional KPI measures available. So we are fully operational, and the member of the team is coming from almost a completely different background. So this ensured a huge diversity for us, and it helped us also to cover this wide range of wide spectrum that we wanted to cover. So we have our expertise, for example, in the people development. We have our expertise in the investment. We have our expertise on the legal affairs. So this is what we were really keen to achieve. So this is the team. I'm not sure, maybe I should be the right person to answer your second question if the Nahdi family is happy or not, but but let me guess that they are satisfied. I think what has happened over the past 1 year and a half is a major milestones, and I think they definitely enjoyed and realized the value of the key decision that they took more than 2 years ago. I can quote a few examples actually. So currently they feel much more harmonized between the family member and the other business units, even for the non-executive family members. The family a few months back enjoyed for the first time ever in their history to see their entire portfolio investment in one unified platform that is fully automated and lively connected to all the banks overseas. So this happened for the first time. I think that family have enjoyed the legal structure that we put in place that by evidence and by experience gave them a sense of peace in terms of the legal or the financial exposures to their personal wealth. So now they realize that these are protective bodies that is meant to help us to grow further and to sustain our standard of living. So yeah, let me guess that they are happy by what they have decided a long time back.
MashaAllah, very inspiring story. Thank you, Saeed, for being so open and so transparent about your journey. Really appreciate. We'll turn now to Omar. So Omar, you are representing Al-Hamdan Group, which is one of the most successful family conglomerates originating from Iraq. If I'm not mistaken, you do not have a family office in place yet. So my question to you is your family considering setting one up, and why?
Thank you, Ismael, and I would like to thank Pearl Initiative for having me and sharing the light on a very important topic. I'll just give a brief on the family business. I'm a third active generation in our family business that was founded by my great-grandfather in 1940s and started with very humble beginnings and ambitious and entrepreneurial vision from that time with a small supermarket. Today, we are working in 4 major sectors. First is banking. Our group is a major shareholder in a retail bank in Iraq called Ashur Bank. Second, real estate development. We are building 5 residential projects in Iraq. Third is aviation. We are Emirates Airlines partners in Iraq since 2010. We are their general exclusive sales agent. We are as well into retail and hospitality. Speaking about the evolution of family office, where we stand today, family office take all sorts of size, shapes, mandate, and context. And before tapping into that, I would like to recall Rania's insight about the 17% of the family businesses in the region that they have drafted their family constitution. So from our end, before 2 years, we have gone into that step of drafting our family constitution. And by going in the details of the family constitution, we saw the need of establishing a family office. Where we are today, it's kind of, as you mentioned in your presentation slide, it is kind of an embedded family office, but definitely, and speaking about governance, sustainability, transition, and succession planning, we saw the urge of doing that entity by itself.
Okay. And where do you think a family office would add value in the specific context of your family? What would you see it doing? Do you have examples in mind?
Well, I believe in many dimensions. Family service vehicle to provide stewardship over pool of capital, primarily investment role, and family service component. Add to that social investing, philanthropy, as Saeed had mentioned as well. So that would be the elements that we'll be looking into.
Okay, being a next generation, although you already have a leadership position in Al-Hamdan Group, but would you see the family office as a support, as supporting, as a tool to support the family in transitioning from one generation to the other, and maybe helping the next generation getting ready for it?
I think it is a very important and crucial topic and point, talking about the next gen. And I think starting early and engaging next generation is optimal. Implementing a rigorous assessment process for future generations is essential, and developing prospective leaders. So nowadays we have 50% of millennials in the workforce. Within 5 years, there will be 75% of millennials in the workforce. So definitely, if we're speaking about a family business, the next gen should be a focus of each family. And as we have mentioned earlier, each family different in their context, different in their values and their procedures, how they look at it. But yes, definitely, it is an important aspect.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your views and sharing the journey of your family, Al-Hamdan. It's time, Sumaya, for our first polling question. So if you can please handle the logistics. The first question that should appear on the screen right now is quite simple. Do you have a single family office? It's your time to answer the question. So we have 4 possible answers. Yes, and it's a standalone legal entity. Yes, but it's embedded in my family business. No, but I'm planning to create one for my family. No, and I have no plans to create one. And host and panelists cannot vote. Actually, it appears in red on the screen, so I'm not going to try to vote. But I'm certainly excited to see the result. So Maya, when are we going to see the result? There you go. We see the result. So I don't know if the participant can see the results, so I'm going to read them out loud. So 9% of the attendees responded yes, and it's a standalone legal entity. 26% of the attendees said yes, but it's embedded in my family business. 35%, so the dominant group in this audience said no, but I'm planning to create one for my family. So I hope that you find this session valuable if you are in that thought process. And 30% have answered no, and I have no plans to create one. Well, I hope that we're giving you maybe ideas to those who have no plans as to the benefit of creating one. So let's move now to the third section of this webinar today, and really the second chapter of our conversation with Saeed and Omar. This is about institutionalizing the family office. My first question, and the question will be for Saeed and then Omar, so I'd like to have both your views on this question is, do you think that a family office should be treated like a business and that every aspect of it should be professionalized? Or do you think, it's family, it should be, a loose, let's say, organization from a process standpoint? And what are the benefits, in your views, of professionalizing the family office? Starting with you, Saeed.
Sure, Ismael. Actually, I was laughing when you gave the option, because I strongly believe it should be treated like a business. I think there is no other option. It has to be institutionalized. You are reaching to this level of professionalism in order to achieve sustainability. Sustainability comes only behind the right governance. You need to handle it with care. You need to handle it with a clear vision, just like any other business unit. You need to have a clear mandate. You need to know who does what and who has the right to vote for what. Otherwise, it would be something on the side. You can't tolerate under the umbrella of being a family office some of these practices. You can always afford this flexibility within the family services unit when it comes to personal items. As you said, a family office is to gift back somebody's his time. So you can give them better life standard, but you cannot have a flexible regulated family office when it comes to business and sustainability and governance. So just to confirm my answer, I strongly believe, yes, it should be.
Omar, what about you? If your family were, I mean, you already have the embedded office, so, but if you were to separate it, or even today, I mean, how does this office function? Does it have policies and procedure, or, you know, is it a bit looser? And really, do you see benefit in institutionalizing?
I totally echo with Saeed's points, and even the poll from the audience. We can see the majority of the audience, it's either embedded or they do have a single family office or they're thinking of. So there is a real need of like a flagship that stands by itself, an entity that has its own policies and procedures, its own governance, its own compliance, and definitely that can be made with a counterpart, strategic advisors or consultants like EY or one of the big fours or any of the key players in the region. So definitely the thing that we will be looking into it, that principles and fundamentals.
Yeah, and just to complement what you're saying, you know, with a story that I've experienced with actually a very successful gentleman from Saudi. He had a very dysfunctional office, and because of that, you know, he was worried. He literally had, you know, issues sleeping because it was always on his mind. You know, he was delegating tasks, but he did not trust these tasks were done correctly, and you know, these tasks were of very high importance with, you know, big consequences if they were not done properly. And why? Because, you know, he had always that in mind, that, you know, it's family matters. So, you know, it's private, it's not business, you know, it's private matters. So private, we leave it loose. And he totally changed, you know, and realized, oh no, oh my God, I need to do something about it. And now, you know, things are much better for him, because it's really about that, you know, regardless of the task, you know, in an office or even at home, right? When you delegate, you want to have confidence that, you know, the person who will handle your task is going to do it well, right? And when you have that confidence, you feel so much more relaxed, you know, as a manager in a company or something. But when you don't have this confidence, what do you end up doing? Micromanaging, you know, spending more time, you know, until you become honestly unhappy, and your mental health suffers. So yeah, I really echo and agree with what you said. Very important. So to what extent should the family office be led by family members? And does that conflict with the objective of institutionalizing? So first with you, Saeed, what do you think?
I think Ismael, there is no right answer here. There is a merit in each direction. So if in the case of some family offices led by a family member, it also has its weight when you deal with some stakeholders. Sometimes also you get a lot of benefit, being that this project is led by a family member, so it gives smoother alignment with non-executive family members. And sometimes it's vice versa, by the way, but in most of the cases also there is a merit on a family member leading the family office. On the other scenario, also it has great pluses, I think, to it. So being a non-family member leading the Nahdi Family Office also is giving me that advantage. So among the advantages of being non-family member is that you're always almost at the same distance of every family member who's a stakeholder into this project. Another advantage, for example, is that you hopefully in most of the cases doesn't have the emotional connection to some decision through some businesses. You know that family offices come at a stage after a long journey of running a family business. So it's not easy to take the most logical decisions when it comes to some business families on absolute measures. You always have it associated with a lot of emotion. So being non-family member, sometimes you can really highlight clearly and strongly the items that we should focus on. So there is a merit, I think, in both scenarios, and you can make it work in either way.
Mm-hmm. Omar, what do you think about involving family members in the office and at leadership position?
Well, I mean, at the end, we're talking about the family capital in a family office. So from my perspective, I wouldn't mind family members to be in the family office in a certain procedure and certain principles that can be chosen, as Saeed had mentioned, to be extracted from any emotional decision-taking process. It can be, him or her can be assessed and evaluated by an independent outsiders of the family and from insiders of the family. And this wealth that's been generated, it's been generated from the family businesses, from the family itself. So definitely it's something that it can be having, I would say, a mix of family members and non-family members in the family office setting.
Yeah, and probably, you know, based on what you both said, based on merit, right? Based on merit, especially when it comes to executive position, and we see, as Saeed said, we see both approach in practice, but we like it more when it's based on merit. I have to say, and it's more effective, and guarantees really this professionalization, institutionalization of quality in all the activities of the family office. Saeed, we spoke about menu of services. We spoke a little bit, I spoke a little bit in my early presentation about doing service in-house or versus outsourcing. So do you think that a family office should conduct all its services in-house? And how much does your family office outsource to service providers and partners?
Actually, Ismael, you keep pulling me back to the question of challenges. This was one of the this was one of the challenges that we faced, because we used to ask this question on every dimension that we want to take. So we ended up at least at the Nahdi Family Office with a hybrid model. So we have seen that the base should not be the driver should not be the cost or what is that should be done. It should be what is more effective to take me where I want it to be. So we have ended up with a hybrid mode. I can quote a few examples here. So for example, on the investment front, we are self-managing our investment up to 70-75%. But also we have kept about 25% with the fiduciary managers, because we feel that this keeping us on our toes, keeping the challenge on, keeping us hooked with the best practices. On another example, for example, we have discussed this intensively when it comes to our IT system and IT platform. We found that this is a very strategic and crucial point to us, due to the connectivity, security, cybersecurity, and then we have decided to in-house it fully. On the legal expertise, especially with the complexity and the changing laws and many countries and jurisdiction that we work with, you will find us more than 80% outsourced, because this is really a deep center of expertise that there is no way to catch up with every change that happens on outside Saudi in terms of the international jurisdiction. So we have decided that the hybrid is what would work for us. I am 100% sure that maybe other family offices would be on a different standing.
Okay. And speaking of outsourcing, we see more and more of a trend, I'm going to say globally, a little bit less in the region, although some players have established themselves in the region, but we see more and more of a trend for multi-family offices. So families who believe, no, actually, I don't need my own dedicated single family office, but instead, I'm going to use the service of a multi-family office. Of course, they're not going to be for me and my family only, but I think I'll be better off using the multi-family office rather than relying on my own hands and brain to handle my life's task and deal with service providers directly. Omar, how does that resonate to you, using a multi-family office instead of setting up a family office? Would you be tempted by doing so? Can you tell us why?
That's a very good question, Ismael. I think financially successful families eventually face a difficult choice between creating their own single family office or partnering with a multi-family office. With that being said, capabilities and costs are certainly important. So in SFO or MFO, the decision are also required for qualitative analysis of family culture, values, etc. And as you mentioned in your slides earlier, finding the right balance between outsourcing and having an in-house. So from our perspective, going forward, I believe we're going with establishing a single family office, and we can utilize and leverage on the outsourced services that can be provided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense, really, because indeed there are certain services that are very challenging emotionally, culturally, to fully outsource. That's time, Sumaya, for polling question number 2, and I hope I hope we'll see a clear difference between the two possible answers. So question number 2 is: do you think a family office should be treated like a business and professionalized accordingly? A, yes; B, no. Your time to vote. Poll is still in progress. And wow, I love that. So it's a full yes. So 100% of the participants thought a family office should be indeed treated like a business and professionalized accordingly. So I cannot disagree. Well done. And let's move to the final chapter of our conversation with Omar and Saeed. And we'll start with Omar this time. The theme is maximizing the value of the family office. And the question to Omar is, do you think that the Middle Eastern family office has a role to play which goes beyond investment management and reporting? And how would you define such a role?
Well, based on many articles and case studies, Middle East family businesses play a particularly significant role in the region's economy. So enabling their growth is high on both private and public agendas. With a GDP contribution of 60%, a workforce contribution of 80%, and $1 trillion USD estimated to pass from one generation to next. So definitely it is playing a key role in that era.
Absolutely. Thank you, Omar. And Saeed, as advisors, we see more and more families in the region relying on the family office to obtain support in relation to matters such as For instance, family practicing their shareholders' duties, entrepreneurship support, professionalizing the family, philanthropic activities, family governance support, education of next generation, family care, lifestyle assistance. So what, in your view, are the most important services? I mean, you already told us that your office focuses on growth. The second one is governance in general and education. But I believe you also have some ancillary services that are not as important. But within those services, what are the most important? And within the ones that I've listed, do you think that there are services that should not be conducted by a family office, for instance?
Yes, Ismael, you're right. These are the bigger theme, but we definitely provide a wide range of services under each one of these themes. It's very difficult to come up with a ranking for the importance, but overall, everything matters. So it's very important. There is a huge interlink, Ismael, between the family and the business. So if you think that this item is somehow less important or irrelevant, then you can, I'll just quote a few examples. It's very difficult to differentiate, for example, unintentionally bad doing or mispractice on a philanthropic activities and its reflection on the business, because the family itself has sort of a brand equity, just like the business. So everything matters. Yes, I agree. There are core activities that would rank higher in terms of importance because they directly touch the sustainability and the continuity. So I would definitely agree on the right investment, financial planning. I would definitely second the governance framework and the importance of activating each committee within the framework of the family office. I would definitely emphasize the importance of involving non-family members in all of the committees that is doing its duties. But you can't marginalize anything else, because if you invest less into the next generation development, then you are not preparing the future leadership for this business. So everything matters, I think. It's so much interlinked.
And do you see the family office enhancing communication between members of the family? I mean, I know that the family is very close to each other, you know, so I guess communication is quite smooth. But did you see the family office, for instance, you know, improving communication even further when it comes to, you know, the topics that are not usually, you know, discussed, you know, around lunch or dinner in a family?
We're taking communication very seriously. So on a broader sense, but zoom into the communication with the family member. Yes, it's very important, and we're trying. For example, here within the family Nahdi Family Office, we have our regular monthly communication to all family members. We have our twice-a-year family concert. We have our protocol when it comes to communicating significant news, whether it is good or bad news. You have to communicate everything. So it's very important because it will keep everybody engaged and up to the responsibility. It will keep everybody, especially the non-executive members. It's very important to them to keep them. And on a broader scale, we are taking the communication very seriously. We have even our protocol toward all other stakeholders. We have our protocol on what to be communicated, not to be communicated in terms of the office. We have our own protocol on how family office members should act on the social media, for example. So communication is a very critical for us, and we have the whole communication protocol written within the family office policy.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that indeed you're taking communication very, very seriously, because it is extremely important and has a long-term impact on really the success of a family and all the ventures they're in. Omar, and that will be the last question that I'm going to ask to our panelists before the third polling question. How can the family, Omar, facilitate and potentially manage the engagement of the next generation of family business leaders?
I mean, as Saeed have mentioned, many valid points. That reminds me of our family constitution, and definitely one of the main important aspects is unifying the relationship and keeping the harmony between generation to generation. And in terms of the next gen, in the engagement, or this, like making them start early in the family business, or getting to know the aspects of the family office that's being established. That's one of the things. Second, empowering them and raising their capacity in what they are into and what would they like. Definitely any family business, and we all know the succession rate from G1 to G2, it's around 30%. G2 to G3 is like goes for 10%, and from G3 to G4 around 5%. So we need to work on this numbers. We need to get to know what's the pain point, because we always hear this in all the family forums that, okay, from generation 3 to 4, that's the biggest failure rate. But even publicly listed companies, they go on average of 15 years in the business. All the startups, first and second year, 70 to 80%, they fail. So even with our family businesses, there is a small scale that family can be a failure, but still on the bigger approach, the succession rate is higher. So engaging them from a young age and listening to them. Communication is key, as Saeed had mentioned. Having a family council or assembly in between time and time, and then these things can flourish going forward.
Thank you, Omar. And you seem to be very passionate when you were talking about, indeed, empowerment of next generation. And that is, you know, well, arguably one of the most important topic at the moment in the context of, you know, family businesses in the region, right? How to prepare the next generation so they can be ready one day, inshallah, to take over, or if not taking over, at least being involved. Right, being involved without creating risk for the wealth, for the business, but rather, you know, creating opportunities of enhanced and faster growth for the business. So big challenge, but at the same time, you know, big opportunity, really. Polling question number 3, which will be our last polling question of the day. Do you think that the role of a family office in the Middle East should go beyond investment management and reporting? Yes or no? We'll see if we have a consensus that is as clear as for our second question of the day. While people continue to vote, I'd like to remind you that you can ask questions through the chat. I saw that some of you actually were asking whether the presentation will be shared. It will be shared, so don't worry. We just have to basically put it in a format that can be shared, but the content will be identical, and it will be shared, if not today, tomorrow, by the Pearl Initiative team. And the result is, do you think the role of a family office in the Middle East should go beyond investment management and reporting? Yes, 82%, no, 18%. So vast majority of you think it should go beyond that. And frankly, it really reflects what we're seeing in the region. So more and more families are using the family office as a tool to educate the next generation, as a tool to plan the intergenerational succession, as a tool to manage the family governance, and many more activities. But one of the key challenge is how, given this diversity of services, the diversity of topic, how do we maintain super high quality for all those services without, you know, having to hire, you know, 100 people, right, or 10 C-level executives. that's the major challenge. And as we've said multiple times during this webinar, finding the right balance between what you do in-house and what you outsource is critical, and having very solid, policies when it comes to people, processes, and technology, right? To find the right mix between the three, I think is really critical in the context of a family office. We have several questions that were asked by the participant. So maybe we can start with the first one that I see. How would a family office involvement in operations of their investments during the transitioning period to a fully established family office? How would a family office involvement? Okay, I have to say I don't fully understand the question. So how would a family office involve in operation and their impact? Okay, I'm guessing is there was existing investment and a new family office is being created, what to do and how to manage these existing investments in the meantime, I guess, while the new team is not there. Honestly, I'd say if you don't have capabilities to ensure a high level of quality when it comes, and low level of risk when it comes to those investments, outsource until you build these capabilities. So you don't take the risk that these investments are lost or somehow decrease in value because of a lack of quality in the current team, to the extent that there's no team. We see another question that is about the economical impact of family office on the local economy. And I know, Saeed, that your office has a dimension when it comes to supporting the local economy, be it by being involved with local entrepreneur, or also, of course, via the philanthropic arm of your family office. So do you want maybe to share a few words about that? How do you contribute to the real economy through your family office?
It's a key mandate for us, is that to be interactive with our society, and this interaction does not only come through the giving away. It's you're being a good investor is a good example of interaction. Being a good job creator is a great interaction. So we do have that in mind, and we sometimes have special focus on a smaller investment that is coming from behind the ambitious entrepreneurs. Although probably sometimes in terms of scale, it does not fit within our umbrella, but we have special consideration for it, because we believe that the more we interact with those potential job creators, this is what would yield in the future a bigger empires for the economy. On the philanthropic side, we definitely also have our own program that is being established in line with the regulation and within all the mandates by the authorities. And we are keen to deliver according to a strategy. We don't want to be spontaneous or reactive sometimes. No, we want to have a long-term impact. We have a clear measuring tools on what is it that we want to achieve on the long run. So yes, we're trying to be as interactive and as contributing as much as possible in a way that also fits our mandate. And if you allow me, Ismael, going back to, I think, to the earlier question that came from one of the audience regarding the interaction within the operating business. You are newly incepting this family office. It's good that when you take the start, you have the long-term goals. So I think the question was referring that at any point of time you still being engaged into certain operation. If you would have the long-term vision of being a good shareholder, then you need to build up these capabilities within the operating business units itself. This will allow you to have more time to practice your role as a family office. So you need to push hard toward building the capabilities and making this business unit as mature as possible in order to practice your role as a family office. So usually family offices is not something that come very disruptive and disconnected from yesterday. It comes an evolution as a continuation of decades of business with any family. So you need to find that right balance of how do you evolve the capabilities of these subsidiaries in order to move to the next stage.
Thank you, Saeed. Omar, I know you're quite passionate also about giving back, and connecting with the local economy in Iraq, for instance. So do you want to share a few words about, I think it's important conceptually, family office and real economy. What's the contribution to it?
Sure, Saeed, and it's a very important question. Definitely a force of good. We do have one of the embedded values that was the founder himself, when he started the business, there is one of the key aspects and the key value was contribution back or giving back to the communities. And one of the important pillars that we have in our organization is the CSR. It's the Station Foundation for Entrepreneurship. It's a non-profit organization. It was funded by our group in 2018 in Baghdad to serve as a first co-working space that was an entrepreneurial hub for entrepreneurs, graduates, that they can come for and I would say a clean environment that they can start working from shared workspaces. At the same time, they get mentored, they get trained. We have an event hall that fits for 200 persons, and at the same time, we give them access to finance. So if we see that if there is any potential of these startups or these small business owners and they would need a loan or need to start their business, definitely there is a door to that. So we work on different initiatives. We believe that the station have impacted more than tens of thousands of fresh graduates and entrepreneurs in Iraq. And recently we have opened our second branch. It was sponsored by the EU in Al-Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq that was invaded by ISIS in 2014. So yes, we're very proud of what's been happening and the impact that it's been doing in the local markets in Iraq.
Yeah, I love to hear honestly these stories, and the same for Saeed before. I mean, family offices are a force for good to really impact their societies and help wealthy and successful families giving back, really. And that's part of the DNA, honestly, of most family offices that I work with, especially in this region where philanthropy is so close to the heart of the local populations. There are a few technical questions. I'll answer them really quickly. There's a movement to create a foundation in the UAE. Would you say that the foundation will achieve the same goal as an SSO or not? If not, can these two tools work together? Yeah, very much working together. Foundation is more the equivalent to a trust that you could use for international assets. Now you could consider using a foundation for the regional asset. It's tried and tested for UAE assets. It could work to a certain extent for assets located in the rest of the Middle East and the rest of the Gulf. Of course, we need to look at the detail to be able for you to appreciate the pros and cons of doing so. But broadly, a foundation is a good tool. We see a lot of interest, a lot of people using this tool. And I think one of the key features of the foundation is the ability to enforce legally the content of a family constitution. And that connects with another question that was asked here. Do you think that the family business can really be protected by governance protocols, and how? And I'll share my practitioner view. I think the answer is yes, to a certain extent, but you should not stop having the constitution signed. It's not the end, it's the beginning. Because what is next is who is going to take charge for this family constitution, who is going to give life to it, to activate it, make sure the meetings happens, make sure people show up, etc. That's where typically families need help, and that's a role that can be allocated to the family office. So the ongoing, let's say, family governance activities, and as Saeed mentioned, it is a core component of his family office. The other thing that is super important is the legal enforceability of the rules, right? And that has to do with the structure, the ownership structure of the assets, right? And trying to create an ownership structure that gives life to these rules, that makes them legally enforceable. So in case family members decide to disrespect these rules, there are consequences. The courts will basically judge in favor of the Constitution and not the other way around. So I think these are two key challenges that I see. And again, signing the Constitution is the beginning of a journey and not the end. There is a question about the ideal organizational structure of the family office. And frankly, it depends on, every single family. I mean, it sounds cliche to say so, but it is the reality. Every family is different. And therefore, I really believe in, looking at the facts and circumstances of the family to be able to advise, on a diagnostic, right? Like a doctor, really. It sounds cliche again, but it is true. Now, it may happen that two families have the exact same, structure, but I wouldn't skip the first diagnostic part because, you don't want to, you want the family office to really be of assistance and support to the family, and therefore you want it to be responding to needs and requirements of the family. That said, you can start small and grow fast and get bigger, over time. And honestly, I have nothing against starting embedded, and then when the family is ready, taking the family out of the business. And that also aligns with what Saeed said, earlier, which is, sustainability in the quality of the services being provided to the family. And I think it is time, after me answering these technical questions, to wrap up, because it is 15 past 3. So we will hand back the floor to Rania for closing words. On behalf of my panelists, I would like to thank you for giving us your most valuable resource today, meaning your time. And of course, I want to thank Saeed and Omar for sharing their incredible knowledge, wisdom, and kindness during this webinar. So thank you really very, very much, Saeed and Omar, for taking the time today. And we hope that you as participants found it as insightful and valuable that we found it, being me and the Pearl Initiative team. Back to you, Rania, for the closing words. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Ismael. And again, allow me to reiterate my thanks to Ismael, the EY team, and most notably Saeed and Omar for sharing your time, but your experience, the challenges that were also faced, and the journey that everyone is going through. And I really want to thank our audience for your participation, your thoughtful insights and questions. We encourage you here at the Pearl Initiative to take the survey afterwards on your feedback on this and other topics that you would like us to go deeper into in our following workshops and webinars as well. This is very much for the business community, for us to learn from the experts and the journeys of those as presented today on today's session. And we encourage you to reach out to us via email, our social media channels, and our website to see other upcoming activities, events, convenings that we have across governance and philanthropy, governance for small businesses, and how to get listed, and the importance of corporate governance across different aspects of the business. Thank you all for your time. In the meantime, allow me to wish everyone, for those that will be celebrating and observing, an early blessed Eid. And thank you again to all of our panelists and attendees for your time. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.